3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK. GrokTALK.com. We are your feared, extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio, microphone stomping, conservatives, and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GrokTALK.com.
GrokTALk.
All right, we are back for segment 3, January 3rd, 2015. This is GrokTALK, and Max isn't here yet. He has to come from the seacoast, and he always runs into issues with traffic and parking, so he may be along shortly. I'm going to get you guys started, and we can keep talking to Brian since he's here, and then I'll go see if I can find out what's up with him. But anyway, I'll give you my headset, since I'm going to leave the room. How about that? So I'll turn everybody else's mics on. Yeah, keep on going.
All right. I'm going to throw in a quick squirrel run, then we'll get back to Brian. So anybody see the film of the holiday period? Knocking off nasty norks for fun and profit?
No,
interview?
not yet.
Yes.
No. Hang on.
It was quite funny, a little too rude in places, which I found was gratuitous, but I thought it was pretty funny nonetheless. Exposing, Potemkin shops and all the rest of it. It was.
I do want to go see American Sniper, though.
Yes.
I watched Team America.
That was funny. I liked that.
It was horrible. It was incredibly rude, but I kind of liked it.
Yeah, it was so bad it was great.
Which was banned by some movie chains because they were afraid they might become targets. Wussies. So I'm going to watch that one as well. But
I'm not going to enable Sony and them making money off a movie that's just crap.
Details.
But neither here nor there.
So while we're waiting for Max to show up,
yes,
and Steve's going out on a search and rescue mission, oh gosh, that gives me control of the board.
Oh,
yay!
So the short version is here.
Yeah,
we have a plaintiff who's filed a lawsuit demanding all certain types of things and information, and if you don't do this, then if you fail to comply, then the court may do this or that to you without your input, and then the plaintiff drops the paver.
Right, and
instead of the ball.
And
you've got a county attorney who may or may not know what's going on here.
May not have known when the suit was filed, but I suspect that when he got the interrogatories, he may have had his eyes opened. It would be interesting to get his private opinion, but I don't think I'm close enough to get that.
No, and in this kind of a case, he shouldn't until this lawsuit is completed.
But I read their interrogatories to Brian.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, the attorney who was assisting in the preparation of the response to the interrogatories said the secretary must have written these. So either there wasn't a great deal of attention paid to the interrogatories submitted by the Horns to Brian, or the attorney was sufficiently wise to put it in someone else's hands to develop those. I don't know. These are all guesses. These are all suppositions. All we know is that after being denied by the insurance company for a claim resulting from something that you didn't build that damaged your pool.
People that I talked, I've talked to some knowledgeable people, and I've researched it and stuff like that. And nothing for nothing, she was on the news, and it really indicates that the Horns are desperate for some money. And that money's got to come someplace. They got to get it from someplace. So why not it be Brian Demyanovich from your pool pal? Yeah, why not squeeze him?
Well, and you see, they're obviously thinking, as Robin Hoods often do, we'll take the money from the insurance company. It doesn't really hurt the business. Well, of course it does. It puts your rates up.
It put my rates up, and I had to pay my insurance $500 just to investigate the thing. I'll never get that money back, and that's not right.
No, and your insurance premiums are going to be higher for the next few years at least. Regardless of how the lawsuit goes.
Well, they didn't pay out a claim. The claim was filed, but they didn't pay out, so I didn't actually draw off of this. So my rates should pretty much stay the same. At least I suspect that they would. Although I'm not sure either, because this year when I paid my insurance, it was $400 more money.
Yeah. So the rate did go up for whatever reason.
For whatever reason.
For whatever reason.
Now, and again, I can come back to what I talked about earlier, just before we went on the break, which is if you're asking, and now added to what you said, asking questions of your interrogatory from the horns to Brian, and the questions are kind of sketchy, having not read them, but they're not quite spot on.
Amateurish is what
Amateurish is correct. Sketchy is pejorative. Amateurish, I think.
No, I meant it in an engineering standpoint. You know,
that's
when
right.
you
You are an engineer.
Yeah, you know, so it may kind of work, but not a what you said.
See,
But anyways,
you're an engineer.
Yeah.
A software engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that
We almost all of us are all techies in one way or the other.
Yeah, which is
So
why I took the word sketchy to be one that has to be used with caution because it can allude to character, whereas amateurish just implies the secretary did it.
But it still comes back to my main point of were they bluffing? Because obviously I helped to videotape you earlier.
They
when
ain't
we
bluffing.
First...
I got the papers from the sheriff.
No. There's one thing to have gone through the process.
Yeah.
But when when I found out that the interrogatory questions that your attorney sent to the horns,
Right,
and they did nothing, you do have to kind of wonder. You know, being a software engineer, you program the code to do the original purpose, and then you do what's called defensive programming all around that. Well, what if instead of doing the right answer, they do a wrong answer, and what if they do this and this and this? And a lot of code is written not to actually do what it's supposed to do, but to keep it from doing stuff it's not supposed to, because you know, as fast as we try to idiot-proof our code, God's making more and more idiots. So
and they're running the Republican Party.
So this is the way I kind of looked at this and said, is this all a bluff in the first place? I don't know.
Is
I'm not
it a
lawyer.
bluff or a shakedown?
And
that's a terrible term to use.
Or a combination of the two.
So let's assuming that there's no reason for it to be a shakedown per se, as in they're not. You know, Brian's not officially on their enemies list. At least
it's not malevolent. It's just hey,
it's not malevolent.
Pockets.
It looks like a case of, boy, are we in trouble, and now the pool's collapsed as well. Who's the deepest pocket connected with this pool? You know, and
okay.
What a pun!
It's not me. I'll tell you. I handle a lot of money, but you know my expenses are so tremendous.
It's the margins.
I keep almost nothing. I mean, really and truly, everybody's broke at different levels, but I mean, I keep almost nothing when I'm done at the end of the year. But I stay in business, and you know, I employ some people, so they're working, they're paying taxes. You know, it's all part of the support in the community. That's what small businesses do.
Right.
But to be defrauded out of your money.
And you know, you put it exactly right, because what a lot of people don't get is that there's a profit.
Yeah.
And then there's a profit margin. Depending, you may be
Net
handling
gross.
a whole lot. Yeah. Having run a small business, I know how much money came in. I also know how little profit there is. And when you look at businesses all together, especially at the small business level, they're razor thin. So something like this, you've
especially
lost.
right now, I'll tell you, when Obama got elected, before he got elected, I was doing 23 to 25 in-ground pools a year.
Wow.
And Obama got in, and my pools went to 5, only 5. The next year I did 6 pools. I had depleted all my resources, any money that I did just to keep my business afloat. My accountant doesn't even know how I did it. Then I did 9 pools. Now, she files this lawsuit. I only had 11 pools under my belt at the end of the year. I've gone from 25 pools on the average yearly before Obama. And this year here, I've only done 12. So I'm just barely staying in there. You follow me?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I can't take a hit like this for crying out loud. But, you know, one thing is, if it was something that I did of my workmanship, I am a man of honor, and I would be down there taking care of it without going through my insurances, and I would be apologizing, humbled and stuff. Now, I've built pools for attorneys. I built a pool for a very good attorney over in Sandown. I don't want to mention his name and stuff, but I mean, I had forewarned him about an issue, a rain issue in water and stuff, and he assured me he was going to put in certain drainage around the pool. Well, he didn't do it that year. He waited to the following year, which he was supposed to do it that year, but he didn't, and he knew. and the water got down in between the pool and the house, and it makes the ground super saturated. Well, if you get anything super saturated, you get sinkholes and stuff. Just like on the highways and the roads, you see it all the time. Cars are falling in because the ground's super saturated and things move. Well, the bottom cracked in the swimming pool, and he called me. You know, when he told me, I let him know that it wasn't my fault. I let him know the cause of it, but I says, I'm in a position to take care of this. All I'll ask you to do, you might have to buy a load of water or something. I went down there, I took care of this in one day. He says, you know, son, Brian, he says, I was hoping that that's what you would say. And that's what I did, because I'm a man of honor. I mean, I could do that. And you know, from that, I generated 3 jobs from that guy, just because I went out on a limb and I could take care of that with short money out of my pocket.
You did the right thing.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a really quick break here and bring Max Abramson in. He's in the room, 60 seconds or so maybe. I don't know. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Little rock organ for Skip. Welcome back to GrokTALK, brought to you by GrantedGrok.com and the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. You can visit us at GrantedGrok.com. You can visit them at cnht.org. And please do that. Hit the tip jar, hit the donate button, help out your local grassroots activists in New Hampshire. We're going to move on to a slightly shortened segment with Max Abramson, who has had an interesting week.
That's putting it lightly.
An understatement. Tell us about your interesting week, Max.
It started with a series of phone calls, 3 or 4 phone calls a day from news reporters, interviews. Then I started getting a pretty good series of emails and contacts and personal messages. Some were from fellow state reps, some were from friends and neighbors, but most of it was from the news media. Asking me, you know, the Speaker of the House is very surprised to find that you have this prior self-defense case and prior conviction, and I had been appointed to the Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee, which was my first choice. Now, there's a story behind that story that a lot of people have missed and a lot of journalists didn't know about. We've had a lot of senior Republicans pulled off of their committees, their committee assignments. And in fact, from the Criminal Justice Committees, Representative Gagne and Tasker were both pulled, and that's an unprecedented act. Even Terry Norelli didn't do things like that. It's almost unheard of to have state representatives.
Kyle's got to be pissed.
No, he's not happy with it.
Oh my God! I would never want to make him mad at me. I mean, I have. That's why I know. But you know, anyway. So.
Representative Bates has been removed from the Elections Committee, who's a former chair.
We had Guy Comtoyan telling us about a couple of those examples, but we didn't have all the time for that much detail. Yeah.
Representative Ober's been removed from county and local, and a number of other people have just been pulled, and they weren't notified, they weren't asked, they were simply pulled.
This is Lynn Ober?
I think Russell Ober.
Okay.
Yeah, because wasn't Lynn Ober a vice chair?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So,
oh boy,
there have been many experienced senior Republicans, and a lot of voters, including independent voters, are now asking, well, you know, why are they taking all this expertise off? Is this politically motivated? And so now all of that has culminated in Jasper removing me from the Criminal Justice Committee. Now I received a message from Jasper himself last night via Facebook. And he said...
the chosen choice for communicating with your reps about.
the way that I found out about this wasn't from Jasper's office. I received a phone call yesterday afternoon after all the news media had been contacted by press release, of Friday afternoon press release, and we'll let the listeners decide whether or not this was contact. I received a phone call. This was the first notice that I'd been removed from that committee. It was Friday afternoon that I started getting calls from reporters again asking me what my reaction was to being removed from that committee. It's a committee I've been testifying in front of as a private citizen for 10 years. I've been very active in criminal justice reform issues for many, many years, wrongful convictions, prosecutorial misconduct, forensic issues for a very long time, and self-defense issues. And I even have a bill in, which has not been given a bill number yet, but it's to simplify the two definitions. There are two conflicting definitions for deadly force in New Hampshire, and they're both subjective, they're both open to interpretation, and they frequently conflict with each other. And so emergency responders and private citizens can have a hard time and might hesitate in the event of a real emergency if they have to act in an emergency to stop some danger or some dangerous criminal or some emergency from getting out of hand. Almost anything that you do could be twisted around by the prosecutor to mean deadly force. And if you get convicted, which I did in my self-defense case, there's no way to figure out whether the jury thought that I'd used deadly force or non-deadly force. There's no evidence from the witnesses to suggest that I did either one, but there's no way to put those two definitions together. So those self-defense issues were issues that need to be brought forward because that gets to your basic fundamental right to survive and your right to be free from crime. You know, that I've been a long time spokesman for the idea that government should first do no harm. The criminal justice system in particular should first do no harm. Shouldn't make crime worse, which a lot of prosecutors are just singling people out, and especially if they've acted lawfully in self-defense to stop a crime, as I did. And the problem is that Jasper's office contacted the press. They didn't even CC me a press release. And Jasper contacted me afterwards at, I think, 9:30 last night. And he told me, well, we did contact you. That was that canceled meeting. That's what that was going to be about. And again, we'll let the listeners decide if that's contact or not. But I never received a phone call, not an email, not a message.
So all they did is they set up a meeting, which we knew about, and then we were going to talk about the meeting today. And so they just canceled the meeting. Didn't tell you why they canceled the meeting. They just canceled the meeting, and then...
Well, no, to be fair, I canceled the meeting.
Oh, okay.
And here's the reason. I had a tremendous number of senior state reps and people who've dealt with Jasper and representatives from all over the state, and they warned me, you know, many, many times, do not go into that meeting alone, because it will be the three of them and just you, and afterwards it'll be your word against theirs, and they'll be able to just make up anything that they want to. Yeah. Now, to be fair, I don't know Sean Jasper, and I'm not going to say that he's dishonest or would do anything dishonest, but I've had so many people who've worked with him over the years tell me and warn me that he doesn't have any integrity.
And this is one reason...
Was this going to be a one-on-one meeting, Max?
A 1-on-3 meeting.
See, three of his henchmen?
Well, Jasper, his attorney, House counsel, and one of his guys.
Oh, that would be... No, not Ed Mosca, but Chuck Douglas. You know, here's the thing. When you say his word against my word, you always bring one of those things with you. Always a camera. And you say, if you can't say it on camera, then there's something wrong.
I would have brought Al Baldassaro with me if I had the choice.
Well, yeah, that's another... but serious, something like that, they're not... They don't like it. They probably would have canceled the meeting. But, you know... we are hearing the vengeance, the retribution, and all of that. He's the Democrat-appointed Speaker of the House. Sean Jasper is living up to every single low expectation. You know, most people set a high bar to jump over. We put ours low to see if he can go underneath, and that's working. It's working.
Well,
Some sort of breaking into song about friends in low places or something.
No, I'm not singing today. Thank you.
well, we have to be clear. It's Democratic House leadership. It's not your average Democratic state representative. Now, there are a lot of Democrats who are left-leaning and they just see the world differently, and a lot of them are there to serve, and they've come from, politically liberal or Democrat-leaning districts, and, we're working across the aisle with a good number of them. But it's House leadership. It's a Democratic leadership that really made that backroom deal on the morning of the organizational meeting.
Yeah, it's here. Somebody's pulling the strings, and we had the talk earlier with Guy Comtois about the rule of calling for a roll vote and having to have 20 people second the motion and do it in a hurry, so it has to be almost pre-planned. Again, for the accountability. We know Democrats don't like the accountability. They love the dark shadows. They hate the bright flashlights. So this is just another case that, the question can be asked. Did he remove you just because, or was he asked to remove you for whatever reason? I mean, you came out with a litany of other names. Who's pulling those names? Who's actually saying, well, we don't want this person here, don't this person here, this person, get rid of them? Is he acting with respect to the majority caucus or the Democrat caucus? Who's pulling the strings? Who's the Rasputin behind the throne? Ta-dum!
And no one knows. And the problem is, even sitting as state representatives in Representatives Hall, sitting in our chairs, we have the Republican caucus. Of course, I can't, and the House Republican Alliance caucus. We can't discuss what was discussed in those meetings, but you can probably guess. But the Democratic caucus a caucus is exempt from the right to know law, as long as it's all members of one party who are there discussing strategy. Now, at the Democratic caucus, Jasper himself was there. Probably a number of his other people were there. So that was a bipartisan caucus where they're making decisions that affect everyone in the state.
Roll that back again, please.
So there's an exemption to the right to know law. The right to know law says that public policy decisions must be made in public if it affects taxes, spending, crime, criminal justice reform, right to bear arms, due process, health care.
And we get this separate caucus bit, but now what's that bit about bipartisan?
So, Jasper ran as a Republican.
Yeah.
So when he goes to the Democratic caucus and they're making these deals and having their little talk, that's no longer a partisan caucus. That's no longer a strategy meeting. Now that is something that must be, according to some people's interpretation of the right to know law, must be made public.
Ooh.
And there's an angle to that. If someone requests that, if any private citizen in New Hampshire were to request the minutes of that and the details of that, that's all supposed to be public. The meeting itself, if it was a bipartisan meeting to discuss public policy, it really should have been something that was made public to everyone in the state, not something that was kept secret as a partisan caucus.
And they know he was there.
We know for a fact that he was there because he was, Democratic representatives told us he was there talking to them. And the party leadership.
We need to get names. We need names.
Yeah, because we'd be happy to, as private citizens, file a right to know request for the contents of the meeting.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Even I don't expect to get them,
nope.
But I certainly expect that if we apply enough pressure, the press will report it.
Well, the other thing I want to do a request of is, the majority leader's office, or whatever it's called, the Republican majority office under Democrat-appointed Speaker Sean Jasper, put out a list of here's what we want to do. And one of them was cutting the size of government. Well, what's your baseline? How are you going to say, here's your starting point, here's your end point? Have they explained that to you as being part of the Republican caucus? Did they actually say, here's how we'll measure this? So at the end of the session, it's it can actually be substantiated. Well, we cut government because here's what it was before, here's what it is now.
Until it shows up in the press. They don't actually talk to him.
That's interesting because Bill O'Brien sometimes gets a little bit of flack and a little bit of elbow in the shoulder for talking about details of details. He's always talking about budgetary numbers and little facts and details that are important, but, you know, he doesn't give the nice, simple message. If you look at your bottle of Mountain Dew, the front is, you know, that's what consumers see. They see Mountain Dew. Actually, I didn't realize they cut down the number of letters, but they send a very simple message so that you recognize it immediately. Marketers, advertisers, they send a very simple, oversimplified message. Very few people turn the bottle around and sit there and look at the list of ingredients. Bill O'Brien gets into the list of ingredients.
And I'll go ahead. So maybe I'll get lucky and Pepsi will send me some money. I doubt it, but that's all right. Even though I'm not drinking nearly as much, or hardly any as much as what I used to. Anyways, but those are the kinds of things that we need to know about, the public needs to know about. And I'm seeing this curtain of obscurity starting to fall. Why were these changes made to personnel on different committees? Why is this the rules changing? You know, who is, again, I hate to keep putting it this way, but who's pulling the strings?
So weren't there a set of committee assignments that were published, and are these changes to that published set?
No, they're just taking people that have been on those committees for years and yanking them off, basically pulling all the experienced Republicans out of these committees. They're not pulling experienced Democrats out, correct?
Correct.
Correct. So basically this is a give to the Democrats. They're going to give all the experienced people who are Democrats, they're going to let them basically take over because...
Yeah. So who are the Republicans being replaced by? Is it more Democrats, or is it wishy-washy Jasper supporting Republicans, the sort that became
well,
majority leader?
There were a couple of A reps, but we've also got some reps. The HRA, House Republican Alliance. It's 118 votes every session that are on Republican platform issues. Spec Bowers, Bill O'Brien, and a number of others have tracked certain bills that track with the
and
Republican.
we use those rates all the time.
And a handful of the recent appointees have A records, but the vast majority of them are 50, 60, 70% voting with, other than business issues, they're voting with the Democrats more often than the Republicans.
And they complain about us for pointing this out. Gee whiz.
Well, you know, interestingly enough, Guy was saying that Mr. Speaker stated or alluded to cost in terms of roll call votes and trying to lessen those because it costs so much money to do a roll call vote. Well, if people with experience, subject matter experience in a committee, have been taken off of that committee and replaced with someone less informed, been placed on a committee where they do not have subject matter experience, what's the learning curve involved here, and what does that do in terms of time lost? Does it, one, give new people a chance to cross-train, if you will, or does it allow them to be run roughshod by people who say, look, we've done this, 2 years ago we did this, Bill, and we've done this, and move on.
We're going to take 60 seconds and come back with Max. We're not going to do a full break. We'll be right back. Hang on.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
GrokTV.